Hey y'all, it's June the 26th, 2017. I think we're nearing the end, if we're not at the end of Ramadan, alright, the holy month of Ramadan. I'm going to talk about that a little bit today in the broadcast. First of all, welcome to the Monday morning broadcast, alright? It's June the 26th, 2017. Alright, this is actually a recorded broadcast. Alright, it's not live, obviously. I couldn't find my cell phone earlier, and that's the reason why this broadcast isn't live, and it wasn't going to be charged up when I found it. And you know what? We had to hammer out the Monday morning broadcast. There's things that we need to get situated and organized in our brains before we carry on into the week, so that we're fully prepared to carry on into the week. Alright, so I said, forget it. I'm going to just get my computer. It's a dumb computer. It's old, but I love it. All right, it's the only thing I got. Right, but it can't do these live broadcasts. I mean, it can on certain platforms and certain things, but it struggles. All right, so we're taping the broadcast today. Welcome, like I said. Thank you for joining me. And dude, leave a comment, all right, so that I know that you're not a robot. And talk to me about whatever you want to. It doesn't even have to do nothing with this broadcast if you don't want it to. Simply just holler at me. Could be about any sort of number of things, alright? Could be about Justin Bieber, if that's what you like. Alright, anyways. I thought we'd just go ahead and dive into things, you guys. There's some stuff that we need to talk about. There's some things we need to know about. Actually, before we do that, I want to let y'all know in Big Spring, it's very nice weather out. It's very cloudy right now, and it's very good for my plants right now in my garden, which is popping off. It's very cloudy, and it rained a little while earlier, and that's good. I didn't have to water my garden earlier today, and that was actually good because I got stung by a wasp. Alright? I don't know if you can see this. To back up, look. I mean, I know a lot of y'all are listening to this, but if you were to see this on the video screen, one of my arms is just like totally fatter than the other, and the reason is I got stung by a wasp or a hornet or whatever it is. And it's actually the third time I've got stung by a wasp in like a couple of weeks, dude. Like, I've been moving around stuff. This is why you gotta make sure that your stuff isn't getting away from you, because here in Texas you'll have all sort of wasps in there after a while, and then you'll get stung by them. And my arm is all messed up. It's a good thing I don't have to water my garden. Alright, it's a good thing, and I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all that. Alright. So anyways, we're going to dive into the topics du jour. Now, obviously, there's many more topics than we could even ever bother to deal with, alright? So we comprised a list of things that just basically are kind of notable, super notable, if you will. Alright, there's way too many things to talk about. So, like I said, drop a comment, let me know what is even more important to talk about. You know, I just gathered a whole bunch of things this morning that sincerely caught my attention. These things that, you know, we definitely need to share. We need to talk about. We need to discuss right now, probably. It's Monday morning, June 26, 2017. Earlier this morning, came across an article. It was actually a headline. I didn't read the article. To be honest with you, didn't read it. But I want to share with y'all the headline. Headline to this article was that ex-girlfriend says, allegedly, supposedly, of Barack Hussein Obama. An ex-girlfriend said of him that he actually just married, allegedly, what she's alleging is that Barry Hussein Obama, he only married Michelle to get acceptance from black people. Now, this is allegedly from his ex-girlfriend. That's what, I don't know her name. You know, I don't know how many ex-girlfriends Barry Obama has, but what she says is that he married a black lady, what you would refer to as a black lady, and I really don't subscribe to all those races and stuff. It's too vague. But Michelle Obama, he married Michelle Obama because she's referred to as a black lady. and he did this to gain acceptance from black people, according to ex-girlfriend of Barack Obama. Now, there's been all sort of speculation, obviously, and controversy over why it is Barry Obama is married to Michelle Obama. Okay, let's just assume that they're madly in love or something like that. Hopefully, all right. However, there's still a lot of speculation. There's always been a lot of speculation. For whatever reason, in 2017, an ex-girlfriend of Barry Obama is coming out right now for whatever reason to say, I think he only married Michelle because, to be accepted by the black folks, allegedly. And this is considering the fact that Barry Obama has a white mama, all right? And everybody knows that. There's nothing wrong with that, all right? So that's why he chose Michelle Obama. And in a certain sort of twisted logic, I want to explain that makes sense. Like, people understand why she would say that. It's not necessarily that she is telling the truth, but they would understand why she's saying that. The logic would be that Barry Obama marries Michelle Obama because he thinks, well, this will get me more acceptance from my black, constituency. All right, I'll get more acceptance from them. All right, and in a weird way, I could see how that would make sense, but at the same time, I got to remind y'all that absolutely not. That doesn't even close to, like, there's so many things wrong with that. I want to explain with y'all. Let's consider the idea that Barry Obama, let's consider that he was choosing from different people, different ladies to get married to in order to make sure that his constituency and his voter base was as large as it could possibly be. All right, let's consider that hypothetically, Barry had all sort of options. All right, and he wanted to gain mad acceptance from what is called the black population, all right, which is not exactly a huge portion of the country. It's not a huge portion of the voter base, generally speaking, because it is about 15% of the country. All right, so let's imagine Barry Obama, he did want to gain acceptance, so he chose Michelle Obama. That was actually a stupid choice. That doesn't make any sense. Barry Obama, if he wanted to gain mad acceptance, I'm talking about mad acceptance, and we all know this. We've seen rap music videos, all right? He would have gotten Melania Trump, dude. He would have. Could you imagine a Barry Obama walking up into the White House doing his thing and stuff, and he's got Melania Trump by his side? All right, or anything like that. If he had an Eva Mendes, if he was walking in the White House with an Eva Mendes, do you think anybody would give a damn what he was doing? First of all, nobody gave a damn what he was doing necessarily. But I'm here to tell you, if Barack Obama walked up into the White House with Eva Mendes by his side, Barack Obama would be serving a third term right now regardless. All right? That's what I got to explain. It doesn't make any sense. All right? Just think about it. Any number of ladies, if Barack Obama was to walk up in the White House with Tomi Lahren by his side, Barack Obama would be serving a third term right now regardless. All right? So none of it makes sense. Do you understand what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with that? Barack Obama made a series of terrible choices. Thing is, everybody's got their own preference. All right, everybody has their own preference. Michelle Obama, I'm sure, is bigger than me. All right, she's on NBA status. All right, I know that her hands are bigger than mine. Everybody's got their own preference. All right, I'm hoping. My belief is Barack Obama fell madly in love with Michelle Obama, and then they got married. All right, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. Michelle Obama is an NBA player, and her hands are definitely bigger than mine. Her feet are probably definitely bigger than mine. I got to tell you that right now. All right, I have to admit that to you. All right, so you notice how none of that makes sense. We're going to dive into some more stuff that just don't make sense. It's weird when you consider the history of America, and you consider like the 60s and the 70s, as far as black people, people who call themselves black people up in America, 60s and 70s, a lot of them drafted off into Islam. And that's another thing that doesn't really make sense, and I wanted to point that out. It's like, dude, what? And people should have been saying that back then, and I bet you there were some people saying it back then. It's like, huh? What? But why would you go to Islam? Because here's the thing about it. Back in Africa and all over the world, basically, Muslim folks, people who were in Islam, lots of times, dude, they enslaved black people. In fact, they enslaved black people like nobody else. Like they were the best at it. In fact, they're still the best at it. And that's terrible. I don't like slavery at all for anybody. But that's the thing. If you go to countries such as Mauritania and other countries, you're gonna understand when you get there, and you see a black person, you pretty much call that black person a slave. All right, to be honest with you. All right, and it's a big secret, but that's the thing about it. More often than not, they're slaves. That's the thing about it. So the Islam, it never really catered to black people to begin with, but like you understand that it caught on here in America, and that doesn't make no kind of sense. I want to ask about that. It's like, a lot of people think that Islam should be reformed, that they should go through a reformation in which a lot of people don't want to kill people on a jihad or whatever like that. People think that Islam should go under a reformation. It's like, yeah, I think the black people here who are under Islam, such as, what's his name? Gosh dang it, I forget his name, but you know who I'm talking about. Right. I think that they should definitely go through a reformation. I think that everybody who's Muslim here in America should be all on board for reformation. All right, because lots of times black people, slaves, and pedophilia goes on, and all sort of things. Sharia law, women don't have rights. Women get their genitals cut all up. All in these savage barbarian countries, you figure they would want reformation. You figure they'd be marching in the streets for reformation. You figure we'd have Muslim marches every week talking about Islamic Reformation, but you don't see that, and that don't make sense, right? There's certain very dominant factions of Islam that hate black people, consider black people up under their feet, and it don't make no sense. None of it makes no sense. The thing is, it's all a rebellion against Western values and patriarchy or whatever, and Christ himself, man. That's really what it comes down to. Simply, the thing is, as far as atheists and agnostic people and all sort of people who just want to go their own way, you gotta understand, you have to be surrounded by Christians to pull that off, all right? Because if you're in these Muslim countries, you get your head chopped off just like anybody else, right? None of it makes sense. And so just to continue on down that path, you know what also doesn't make sense? And I heard about this. Donald Trump went ahead and he canceled the White House Ramadan dinner. Thing is, before I tell you why Donald Trump canceled this whole dinner, and the fact is, you probably didn't even know about this dinner, neither did I. I don't remember ever hearing about it. But it's been an annual dinner that the White House holds every Ramadan, and they've been doing it for decades. Like, they've been doing it since Bill Clinton, every year. A Ramadan dinner. Right? And what I want to explain to you is that if you type in the words on Google, Ramadan death toll 2017, you're going to be very interested in what you find. You're going to find record-setting numbers. You're going to find the bloodiest Ramadan probably that there has been in a long, long time. So you can see why it kind of makes sense that, seeing as the president is a Muslim, and we don't hardly have too many Muslims here, we wouldn't celebrate a Ramadan dinner. That doesn't hardly make any sense. Why don't we celebrate everybody's freaking holidays all around the world? Why don't we celebrate everybody's holiday? Because every culture is equal. And we'll just be we'll be doing holiday celebrations every damn day. All right. See how none of that makes sense? Of course, Donald Trump would go ahead and cancel that whole Ramadan dinner. But what doesn't make sense is that we were doing it in the first place. That doesn't make sense. That's not to say that the president's going to come down and totally just burn down everybody's mosque when they celebrate Ramadan. You can do whatever you want to. That's the freedom of religion. Doesn't mean that we had to celebrate Ramadan inside the White House every single year. That doesn't make sense. It's never made sense. Never make sense. And guess what? It began with the Clintons. See what I'm saying? It ain't never make sense. So Donald Trump, he went ahead and canceled that. And apparently that Rex Tillerson, he was going to have a Ramadan dinner, or like that's what they do in the Department of Justice or whatever it is he's doing. and he canceled that too. All right, they went ahead and canceled their Ramadan celebration, probably because it's staggering numbers of people who done got killed. Thing is, I want to talk about something kind of different as far as people dying in the Middle East and all over the place due to Ramadan. All right, because there was a huge accident that took place in Pakistan. If you type in Ramadan death toll and stuff 2017, you're also going to get this article, and I want to tell you about this. It's one article that I read. It's talking about Pakistan. Apparently there was an accident in Pakistan, and I think it's crucial to discuss this right now because we're talking about a death toll as far as Ramadan and, you know, crazy rogue Muslims, ah, la, 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 like ah, la, 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 Allah Akbar and stuff like that. That's what we're talking about, and people just blowing themselves up, burning people up all over the place. All right, and it's been massive death tolls, like people doing it on purpose. It's called terrorists. All right. But what took place in Pakistan, from what I understand, wasn't anything like that. It was a massive death toll. Certainly, 157 people is what they're estimating it at. 157 people died. And then I had to look into the article, see, you know, gosh, dang, that's a lot of people. How did they die? Now, you can look it up. You can Google it up. But I'm just going to cover a short passage of it with y'all right here, right now, to basically summarize what happened. Now, I gotta let you know, an oil tanker, I guess, had an accident and it overturned, like on a highway and stuff, and it was leaking fuel everywhere. All right, so with that in mind, they're in Pakistan. With that in mind, all right, alerted by an announcement over a mosque loudspeaker, that an overturned tanker truck was leaking fuel. Scores of villagers rushed to the scene. All right, this is about to get crazy. Rushed to the scene to collect the spilled fuel when the blaze ignited. This is how it happened. This is how all those people wound up dying. The wreck had exploded, engulfing people in flames as they screamed in terror. Yeah, I'd be screaming in terror too. Here's the thing about it. If it's not all falling into place right now, okay, over the mosque loudspeaker they said, oh shoot, a tanker overturned, you guys, with all sort of oil coming out. And then what happened is scores and scores of people, to probably be over 157, like hundreds of people came rushing out to do what? I mean, if you're trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, you figure, oh man, it was a safety issue and the villagers didn't want some to blow up, so they're trying to get the fuel away from the overturned truck, and so they didn't. That's the only thing that would make sense. However, it doesn't make sense because you have to understand, if a oil tank and it's leaking oil everywhere, if it overturns and a village nearby hears about it, what they should do is stand at a distance, not go anywhere near that. Call up the fire department and say, look, this thing might blow up and stuff. Y'all need to get out here and do what you got to do. Fireman, that's what you have to do. So none of it, what I have to explain to you in this total tragedy of all, and I mean it, I'm not laughing really. It's shocking. This tragedy of 157 people dying had nothing to do with safety, is what I'm trying to tell you. They were not trying to prevent some sort of accident from occurring, because the thing is, there's much smarter ways to do it. The villagers there in Pakistan all rushed out to that oil tanker. Why? To get some oil. You understand what I'm saying? They're that dirt poor there. Can you even imagine something like that happening in America? If on a nearby highway there's an oil tanker spilled over, tanker spilled over, don't go near that area, and I wouldn't. But the people over there in Pakistan heard about it over a loudspeaker, and they said, hey, let's go get some of that oil. They're thirsty, they're that poor and desperate. 157 plus people died in a desperate attempt to collect oil over there in Pakistan. It's not really a terrorist thing. Although you gotta wonder about that mosque leader. Why would he say that over the loudspeaker if he didn't want the whole town to know? Why did he want the whole town to know? Right? If they're so obviously so poor that those people would definitely run out to the highway and start scooping it up in bowls, if they're that poor, y'all fucking up. Y'all, sincerely. And I wanted to bring that up because here's the thing. We're going to point out all sort of times that certain countries are extremely fucking up, and there's a lot of countries filled with savage barbarians, right? Every last one of these countries are going to have desperately poor people of a poor status that we're not even familiar with. Like, homeless people would not run over to a spilled over oil tanker here in America. Would not happen. They would wait for the firemen to do something. Right? So you can see the extreme poverty that's experienced in places that are ruled over by Islam. Dude, you gotta understand it's not a good idea. You know what I'm saying? As far as the country having Muslim folks, sure, we have atheist folks, we have agnostic folks, we have all sort of people, we have all sort of Jewish people. It does not matter here in America, but you do not want any sort of Sharia law. You never want to hear about Sharia law and things like that, dude. Do you want to live in a country one day where your children hear about a spillover oil tanker and they run out to the highway to try and scoop it up? All right. Anyways, oh, we got that. We got through with that. That was pretty important. I do want to bring up because this is going to tie into extreme poverty as well. Bernie Sanders, obviously, the socialist Democrat, whatever the hell that means. He is and has for a while now been under investigation, specifically his wife, actually for fraud in some sort of like institution that they created, and where they were kind of allegedly Jane might have been siphoning money off the top. She might have been skimming that money, you heard. The thing is, that's what socialists have always done. That's always been their nature. Right. And it's weird how Bernie Sanders was definitely the only candidate that could have stood a chance in the presidency, just because he actually did have like ideals. Like, he actually talked about real concrete ways of thinking as far as like the drug war and this and that and the healthcare or whatever. Thing is, all his ideals were preposterous, but he actually had like a game plan. It's not something that you could say for any of the other Democrats, man. You know, they didn't have their stuff together. Hillary Clinton's dying as we speak, man. It's ridiculous. All right, and they're still hanging on to that whole Russia thing. It's amazing, isn't it? I'm gonna bring that up real quick. The whole Russia thing. They're still on the Russia thing. Ain't nobody an apologist here. It's just, the thing is, after a half a year, after 6-7 months, I want to see some evidence, one bit of it, or shut up. You know what I mean? Like, you're really throwing a wrench in the government right now with the Russia stuff. Just give me one bit of evidence. The thing is, y'all haven't seen evidence. I haven't seen evidence. I'm still waiting on it. I want to see it. I haven't seen it. There's no evidence. I wanted to bring this up, man. This is kind of a little bit of a turn of direction and stuff, but I want to shout out again to my man Paul Romano, alright? And I hope that he can get funded enough to be able to continue his channel. I really enjoy it. And take care of his children, which look like beautiful children, beautiful young adults. And I hope that he can continue to do so. I saw that he had put a video up, and he puts a couple of video ups a day, alright? He puts in that work. And I wanted to point out Paul Romano again because of this. See, Paul Romano is not a Christian. I wanted to point him out specifically because a lot of people look at Christians or whatever and they think, oh man, y'all are just too exclusive. Y'all are just talking about this and that. You don't want to hear anybody else's perspective, and that's actually terrible. That's very wrong. If Jesus tells you anything, it's that you should be aware of people's perspectives. Or, I mean, he tells you a lot of things, but that's a key note, is that you should be aware of perspectives. Not only that, you're not perfect. As a Christian, you ain't perfect. All right, you got to listen to other people, such as a Paul Romano, who's not a Christian. All right, And he put out a video just recently. He's put out a lot of videos about spirituality and, in fact, about Jesus. All right. And he put out a video, and I haven't seen it yet, but I plan to. It's a little bit long. About he put out the question, the meme. He put out the question: is Jesus a guide or a doorway? When you think about it, and you gotta understand, he's talking metaphorically speaking, but that is a very, very astute question. That cuts to the heart of things when you think about it. It's a question that actually I don't ask anymore at all, to be honest with you. But a lot of people might wrestle with that. And what I mean to say is that there's a lot of Christians out there that'll say certain things, such as, you know, Jesus died for my sins or whatever. He put himself on the cross, so basically I wouldn't have to do nothing. I could live my life. Right? And that's definitely not the case. You're talking to a person who goes to church or whatever and dresses up and stuff like that, and they'll say things like that. And it's very off-putting towards other people. Like, people don't like to hear that. It's like, dude, you don't hold no responsibility, basically. When so-called Christians say that, oh, Jesus died for me on the cross so that I can go to heaven, I'm just going to go to heaven because I believe in him. Those particular Christians, they're using that as a doorway. They're using Jesus as a doorway in that sense. Meaning, if you know Jesus, you just walk through that doorway, guess what? You're in heaven and stuff at the end of this. And actually, I gotta point out that that's not the case, and that's probably what Paul Romano is getting at, is that Jesus did not die on the cross so that you could chill out and listen to Justin Bieber all day and stuff like that, and you make it into heaven just because he said his name. That's obviously not the case, right? I mean, Jesus, what I want to point out, a lot of people will never hear me on this, all right, but I do want to point out is Jesus went up on the cross to show you how to do it. That's why he did it. He died for our sins and stuff to show us a way. He is, metaphorically speaking, a guide more than he is a doorway. You understand? It's like, you would wish to think that hopefully nobody, to include Christians, would have to climb up on a cross one day and sacrifice their own lives. But however, that is always the plan B for Christians, and that's why Jesus done it. He did it to show people how to do it, right? And therefore set you free. He didn't do it just so that you never had to do nothing. Basically, is what I'm saying, and that's what drives out a lot of people, right? The thing is, Jesus is a doorway for certain. In fact, he's probably the doorway. In fact, that's what it says, right? So he is the doorway, in my opinion. But the thing is, you have to use Jesus as a guide first. You need a guide to lead you to the doorway. You're not just going to find it, right? You need a guide for that. All right? Jesus is a guide and a doorway. And that's my whole thing. Is a lot of people out there, they don't subscribe to Jesus. However, they subscribe to his behaviors and his lines of reasoning. What I had to explain to y'all is, in a worldly sense, that doesn't make any sense. Jesus Christ, he showed us all sort of things that don't really make sense to do unless you have a long-term plan in mind, right? Unless you're thinking about the afterlife or something like that, right? Jesus Christ is a doorway, but before that, he's a guide, is what I'm trying to explain. And that in my opinion, is probably exactly what Paul Romano is trying to explain from Pockets of the Future over there on that YouTube channel, Pockets of the Future. I think that's what he's trying to say, and he says a lot of things, and they're very wise, and I dig that guy, dude. I just wanted to talk about that. All right, it's very important to note that you don't have to be a Christian to agree with the ideals of Jesus Christ and to see the productivity and the practicality of it. All right, and inevitably, the enemy of our enemy is friends. You know what I'm saying? And we can come together and unite, dude. Like, I don't even subscribe to these churches and these Catholic priests and all this stuff. You know, I see the benefit in certain institutions, things like that. However, there's stuff that we can unite with each other on, and just alleviate problems down the line and stuff, dude. And that's how it's been in America. That's how it's going to continue to be in America. At the same time, you have a curious situation in which the LGBTQIA community is coming together basically with ISIS, and they're promoting all sort of Sharia law, and anything that is not American, that's what they want, and all sort of stuff. So it's getting pretty wild. However, if we just keep it simple the way that we do on this channel, I don't think that we should have a problem. In fact, I think we should incur terrible, terrible success. And I look forward to it. It's terrible, terrible success that comes when different people come together and they unify on certain principles, certain ideals. All right? And organizations climb to the tippy top of the ladder when they can work together in uniformity to come to a specific goal. All right, it's when they come together and work as a team that organizations even make sense. All right, as far as countries, as far as families, as far as any number of organizations, states, cities, communities. All right, when they have a goal, aspirations that they share, everybody shares and comes together on it, that's where you're going to see success. That's where you're going to see people working together and stuff. And I wanted to point that out, right? Because a lot of people aren't really all the way aware of the fact that America currently is in a civil war. It absolutely is, and it has been for a long time, but except now it's all up in our face. It's all up in our face as far as the civil war. Some of the key examples of the fact that a civil war has already taken place is that you're seeing from a lot of mayors and governors and senators and all sort of, there's congressmen who are absolutely turning away from Donald Trump because they hate Donald Trump, all right, for whatever reason. And see, that's not a problem. I don't have a problem with that. But you're seeing a lot of these political figures and these celebrities opening their mouth. You hear them talking about Donald Trump and how much they hate him and stuff. They're not going to do anything that he wants to do. Thing is, you can hate Donald Trump if you want. You have to follow the law. Whatever laws, that's the whole reason why we had this organization built up the way we do, and where we got city governments to state governments to the federal government and stuff. The whole reason is that there's supposed to be structure in it. When you think back to these movies and stuff, where you think about the mafia and all that and all those gangster movies, there's nothing good about the mafia at all. The only thing good about the mafia is they had organization. They had organizational skills. That's why it was called organized crime. All right, that's how they climbed to the tippy top. That's how they got their goals set. Because here's the thing, there was an organization, and there had to be uniformity. People had to agree on certain things for anything to happen. Right, so when you're considering the Civil War is taking place here in America, and it's been taking place, I understand there's been a couple violent incidents. Actually, there's been a handful of violent incidents already. All right, but not only that, you got people and politicians, congressmen, mayors, governors, talking about, oh man, I don't like Donald Trump. I'm not going to do what he says. And it's like, dude, you don't have to live your life like the way that Donald Trump wants. However, the law is the law. What y'all are doing is breaking the law. And how y'all are breaking the law, how that's good for anybody at all and the safety of Americans is beyond me. I have no idea. But these mayors and these guys, and it's pertaining to immigration, or it's pertaining to the environment and stuff. They're like, well, we're not going to listen. We're just not going to listen. We're going to do whatever we want. Because, we run this over here. That's what these mayors are saying. These governors and these senators are saying, we're going to do whatever we want. It's like, dude, you're not following the law. What you're doing is you're creating calamity. Now, if you want your thing so bad, and so many people believe in what you're doing as far as the Paris Accord and this and that, as far as immigration, then you change the law. Alright? That is the rule. You don't simply just decide to do whatever you want to do and say, well, we got a moral obligation to do whatever we want to do. That's called civil war, dude. That's over the top. That is the definition of civil war. Like, oh, I know we're a part of this here country, but we got our own laws. We're gonna say forget y'all's laws and stuff. That's the thing. That is civil war. And it's well underway. Don't want to get y'all depressed about it because I live in a particular location where hardly anything like that is going to go down. There is no left, so to speak, of here, right? Not here in Big Spring. Thing is, there's a lot of people, especially people living in major cities, where people are wilding out. You got your politicians totally just ignoring the law of the land, totally ignoring our kind of our organized civilization that we created, just saying, oh, I'm gonna go rogue. Not only that, you have people in masks shouting about communism, shouting about Sharia law, shouting about anything, shouting about LGBTQIA AAI times two. They're shouting about it, and they're wearing masks, and they look like ghouls and goblins. Those are all part of the Civil War. It's an actual civil war that's taking place. Thing is, the Civil War has been taking place for quite some time. As far as a tug of war, but behind the scenes in America, it's just showing its ugly face now. Right? I think what's important to note is that civil wars get way more violent than it has been getting, so that we do have time to stop that, kind of stomp that out. The whole Civil War and stuff. What we gotta all agree on to keep stability and safety and security for Americans is that we need some sort of unity. Alright, we need to all acknowledge that there is a process, there is a body of laws that you have to follow, and if you don't follow them, you're a criminal, you go to jail. Now, on certain things like the drug war and this and that, of course, people don't see the practicality in that. And they think that that's terrible, and I do as well. However, you need to change the laws. You can't just say, oh, I have whatever laws. I do whatever drugs I want and stuff. I'll do them in public and stuff. I live like Donald Trump. You know what I mean? You can't do that because it causes calamity. It is Civil War type behavior. Alright, for sure. For sure. Alright, there's probably a couple other things to talk about. Shoot, man. I didn't do a great job of getting to all the things. I was a little bit sleepy-eyed when I woke up this morning. So there's a couple more things. I wanted to bring up Milo Yiannopoulos. I think Milo Yiannopoulos is a very curious case, and in fact, as far as America goes and unity, I think Milo Yiannopoulos and his gang of people who are weirdo people, I think that they're very necessary, and I think they're actually going to be crucial in the unity that can be created here in America. For example, like I said, Milo hangs out with a whole bunch of weirdos a lot of times. He is a weirdo. Alright, but what's important about Milo is that America decides together in unison that Milo and his kind is cool here. I mean, if they want to do what they want to do, then let them do it. We might not want to join in or whatever. We might not want to bake cakes for their weddings and stuff like that. But let them do it, alright? So long as they have a love for America. So long as they acknowledge that they could do it nowhere else but in America, really, when you think about it, or Western countries. Couldn't do this sort of thing. Over there in the Middle East, you get thrown off buildings. Over there in Africa, you probably get your head chopped off. People don't deal with that. Alright, so I think that Milo Yiannopoulos and his weirdo nature is actually crucial, because so long as his weirdo nature does not get in the way of freedoms and liberties and all sort of things that we have in America, that a prosperity that the rest of the world just ain't familiar with, as long as we accept Milo and his gang, I think that's the perfect example of the fact that we're just accepting, dude. If you want to just live life, go ahead and live it here, dude. We're tired of people calling us sexist and xenophobic and this and that, or we just want to have families, dude. Just do whatever you want to do. We like a Milo Yiannopoulos, but the thing is very crucial. And I haven't read his new book or anything like that. He's got that new book coming out. I don't know if it's came out or if it's coming out. All right, but I haven't read it, obviously. And I think it's going to be crucial. Here's what we got to really bite down on it, and we got to keep an eye on Milo Yiannopoulos, because something absolutely needs to be done about pedophilia. Now, you understand Milo Yiannopoulos had that whole controversy a little while back concerning pedophilia, as far as him actually speaking about when he got raped as a young child, right? And it's disgusting and all that stuff. It's very off-putting. But however, it was an incident where he got raped as a child, and he was making a joke about it, I guess. All right, and it caused all sort of controversy. He had to kind of ease into the background for a little while. Thing is, I think it's going to be very crucial that it doesn't matter what kind of weirdo you are. Basically, you want to wear wigs and all sort of glitter on you and stuff like that, go for it. The thing is, don't ever include children. Alright, I think that's where we all have to draw the line, dude. And it's like I can't believe that us as people in America can say, you know what, dude, do your own sexual deviancy and weird stuff, and we don't mind or care. Just go off and do it. Don't you ever have nothing to do with children. That is something that we can all agree upon. Right? I think Milo, just because of his background and what he's been known for and stuff, if he were to viciously sink his teeth in to becoming aware and totally banishing pedophilia and the behavior and acceptance of pedophilia, then I think that America on the whole will definitely just benefit from that exponentially. Alright, because that's where a lot of confusion comes into play. Alright, a lot of people have been talking about since for decades and decades that all this sexual deviancy is going to eventually lead to pedophilia and things like bestiality. And what everybody out here has got to admit to themselves and everybody else is that whether you're straight, whether you're gay, whether you're a lesbian, whether you don't know if you have a gender, it does not matter. You stay away from children. Right? In fact, you do not teach children your ways. You don't. You hide it as much as you can wherever you can. That used to be the rule. Hide it. Don't be showing children that this is normal, because it isn't normal what you're doing. Right? If you like doing it, go ahead and do it. Don't you ever bring it around children. Right? And that's where we have to draw the line. I think we're really keeping an eye on Milo. I gotta say, I really like Milo and stuff because of the things that he said. For some of the truths that he's really brought to light. And he's really just exposed for everybody. I appreciate Milo and all his efforts, but he's already come out against pedophilia, and I think it's going to be crucial that he definitely makes his mark against pedophilia and doing something against it, because we are and have always been going for decades now, since before I was born. We've been going down a dark path, because here's the thing. The sexualization of children has become more and more and more and more and more and more and more normalized as the years have gone by. All right, it's sick. It definitely is a blight on America, just like it's a blight anywhere else. All right, because this pedophilia stuff occurs everywhere else. Right. And so it's very crucial that, yes, America is accepting. We're very accepting. We're not going to chop your head off. We're not going to throw you in prison for whatever it is you like to do with your stuff or whatever. I'm going to do my own thing. It's going to be different from you. All right, but don't you ever bring children. The reason I bring it up is because so many people are including children. The other day, I saw, and you probably can find this easily on the internet if you type it in. I saw an 8-year-old boy, a transgender 8-year-old boy, 8 years old. Can you imagine? You remember when you were 8 years old, what you were thinking about? Yeah. So an 8 years old transgender boy who was getting all made up with the makeup at 8 years old. It would be completely, absolutely unacceptable to see an 8-year-old girl out in public with makeup on. But, you know, it's a new age, so This 8 years old little boy was all donned up in makeup. Not only that, he was in the middle of a drag queen show, watching all sort of drag queen members twerk and do. I mean, I'm serious. I saw this on the internet. It sounds like science fiction. It isn't. These are the types of things that we're accepting. You understand? There's mad confusion taking place, and there's a lot of acceptance. We've been taught that acceptance is good. We've been taught that tolerance is good. I saw a video with an 8 years old little boy who's been convinced that he's a little girl, and he was in the middle of a drag queen show, and they were all twerking and stuff around. And then later on, I saw the little boy actually doing seductive. The 8 years old little boy who thinks he's a girl, I saw him doing very seductive dance moves during this video in the middle of a drag queen. You understand what I'm saying? It's a serious problem, right? And it doesn't start there. I mean, you look at Hollywood, all right? You understand that there is a Disney Channel. There is this and that where kids they get makeup all plastered on them. They get put in the tightest little clothes. Oh, they're so cute. Oh, they're so adorable. Oh, this is acceptable. Meanwhile, they're in TV shows. They're not even funny. That's what's weird about it. And that's what's tripped me out the most. I'm going to end it on that note because I don't know what else to talk about, but that's what's tripped me out the most as far as the Disney Channel. If you want to find an absolute haven for pedophilia and people looking at just fiending over these little people, these little youthful people on the Disney Channel, I mean, that's the thing about it. I mean, it's a pervert's haven, all right? And meanwhile, these Disney folks, they're not funny. Alright, and that's sincerely kind of disturbing too, because their shows aren't funny, and you could tell because they actually have robots laughing. If you ever listen to the show, and that's what's creepy and the most haunting, is that they have robots laughing whenever it is that they say a joke. Right, and so our children grow up listening to robots laugh, thinking, oh man, everybody's having a good time and stuff. Oh man, I wish I could be a Disney actress, or I wish I could do this and go on Disney and get all this sort of money. Meanwhile, these children are living horrid lives, nightmares, in which they've been overly sexualized since well before. I mean, like, I'm talking about puberty, well before puberty sometimes. Makeup all over them, and it's acceptable. It's very acceptable. I'm here to argue that that's probably not acceptable. That's actually a big thing over there in Sharia law, and that's why we want to steer clear of all that. A lot of people, and I'll say it one more time, it's like nobody has nothing against Muslims here in America. I love Dave Chappelle, dude. I love Dave Chappelle. Thing is, we ain't having no Sharia law, and yet and still you'll still hear people having their little protests, talking about Sharia law, talking about communism, talking about this and that. We're balls deep up in a civil war. Alright? One of the key aspects is the fact that some people are going to accept pedophilia, some people ain't. And we're finding out who all those people are right now. It's a great divide. It's called the tribulation. It's mentioned in the Bible and stuff. I'm going to have to holler at y'all later. It's June 26th. And I appreciate y'all. Go ahead and, if you have time, leave me a comment, man. Let me know what it is you want to hear us talk about and stuff. What you think is crucial out there. Maybe for the Monday morning, Monday morning podcast. All right, let me know. Or just shout me out. Let me know what you're up to and stuff, man. It's June 26th, 2017. And I'll holler at y'all a little bit later.